Here is probably one of my most favorite ornaments, the little Santa that I got at Macy's about at least 25 years ago. Hand painted on the front, clear red on the back. A clear favorite. Now here is one that's new this year, a nutcracker, a large one. So there are still some great ones out there. Here's another 25-year-old beauty. I used to have two of them, one gold, this is the gold one, and one silver. This is all that's left of these delicate ornaments. Here is another new nutcracker, black hat with gold. Here is yet another old ornament. It's hard to believe. Again, 25 years old. This snow-laden tree with the colors that come off of the silver and the white. It's truly incredible. A slice of pie for anyone? This is a very small ornament and an old one, but a beauty. Here again is a shiny gold ornament, very simple, but the shading on it is incredible. This is one of the new ornaments that I picked up just this year, all glass, went with the mushroom and gnome theme with a little glitter. Absolutely beautiful. There were only two and I grabbed both. Back to an old one. This checkerboard silver ball. Hard to capture the beauty of it with little snowflakes in some of the clear squares. A real beauty. This older ornament looks rather grand, but it's actually quite tiny, measuring maybe 2 inches tall at most. And again, very glittered, and it's coming out a little bit silvery, but it's actually a champagne gold. Very pretty. Here is another new one that I picked up this year. At first glance, you wouldn't realize that this is a glass ornament. The stem of the mushroom is all glass. They've attached a little bit of moss at the bottom, and the top part of the mushroom is felt. I'm going to reach around to show you the underneath part. Which I hope you can see is all glitter. But this part is all glass. I love it. Here's the other version. It's a little bit shorter and stouter, but again, all glass. And the color is actually on the stem is almost like this celadon greenish color, and the top part is brown felt with little glitter dots. And the underneath part is white glitter. Very pretty. Believe it or not, this is a very old ornament with white and silver, again in that sort of like a loose checkerboard pattern. It's held its beauty all these years. Here's another one of my absolute favorite old ornaments. I say old, but it looks brand new. It's gorgeous. All gold, a rose. Beautiful. There's no way you can do justice to this beautiful ornament. Again, just the most beautiful color shade of gold with glitter, and the star shape or flower shape at the top part of the ornament, and then the dangle part is all glass, solid glass. The only two-piece actual ornament I think I own. Well, I had to get some color in. Here's an older ornament, very, very pretty. It's hard to capture that garnet red that you can actually see all the way through the ornament. I think I have two of those. I originally had three. Down to two. Another red beauty with different patterns on it. This side, the floral pattern on this side, and the ornaments actually divided into 4 quadrants and hearts on the other 2. Very pretty. Here is the second of the smaller nutcracker ornaments that are new this year. This one is the red and blue hat, so the focus is on the blue. I love them. I love the detail. Well, I have to get some of the smaller ornaments from the past in as well. The detail is quite intricate. This one, I believe, is a pine cone on the left or on the bottom, and some kind of a berry or something at the top. 2 of my most favorite types of ornaments, which are the little clip-on ornaments. They're actually kind of tricky to get onto the tree so that they'll stand straight. These 2 are in gold. I guess you can tell I do like gold. A gold Santa and a gold candle. Quite pretty. They're very tiny, maybe about 2 inches or so tall. Here's another older one. Maybe not quite as old as some of them, but at least 20 years old. It's like a teardrop. That measures probably about 8 inches long. I used to have a whole set of these. Now I think I might be down to 1 or 2. Very, very delicate. Here's the tiniest of the older ornaments, and probably one of the oldest. As you can see on the Santa's hat, that what would have been like glitter is actually little, teeny, tiny, the tiniest of little metal beads. Maybe it was original glitter, who knows. And you can actually see some of the paint has come off his beard as well. He's a tiny little thing. He's probably less than 2 inches. Love it. For the last part of this video, I thought that I would share some of the trees from the past years. Now, it's been many years that I've been creating these and designing these trees. So I've gone through the ones that I could find pictures of. I have about maybe 10 or so pictures out of the 30 plus years of designing trees. And no particular order for the next few trees. And I'm just going to briefly describe them. The first one that you see here has probably been the most popular tree that I've ever designed. And I call it my Tiffany tree. And it's a full-size tree. Now, when you look, a full-size project, I should say, because that's in our porch with 9-foot ceilings. And the tree itself is probably only 3 feet tall. But the box that it's in was made from actual plywood. It comes in 4 sections, and I covered it in blue vinyl and used crinoline and satin to make the bows and the ribbon around each piece of the box comes apart, so it's 4 pieces, and they're heavy, but they kind of needed to be. I mean, I probably could have used something lighter, but I didn't. Inside the box is a chair, a tall, like a bar stool, and the tree sits on the bar stool. And underneath all that crinoline, which is the white tissue paper, is chicken wire. And all those little strips get stuck into the chicken wire. And there's lights under there as well, so it does light up. Right now, the porch light is on, so you don't see the lights quite as much. But it has been, I've posted it on Facebook years ago when I created it, and easily one of the most popular Christmas trees that I've ever, people request it, that I do it each year. And something, dragging it up from the basement is a chore, so I do it every few years. It's a definite favorite of mine as well. The Tiffany The next tree is called my ombre tree. And as you can see, if you look at the top and you kind of just look straight down through the tree colors change from a white at the very top all the way down to a red at the very bottom. So it's something like one, two, three, four or five different colored lights go on this particular tree. Don't ask me how I managed to get all those different lights and the different shades of lights. It was quite a challenge. And there's quite a few lights on this tree, probably close to 1,500, something like that. What also helped to create that ombre effect was beads, and I was able to find all different shades of beads, and I just cut them and put them into like little double teardrop shapes. If you look closely, you can see them. And then there were actual teardrop ornaments. Also, don't ask me where I got them in each of those different shades too, probably four different shades. Took a tremendous amount of time to create this tree, but it was really a beautiful tree. I put it. I'm not putting these trees in order, but if it's probably the second most favorite tree with people on Facebook. The ombre tree. Next tree is called the layered ribbon tree. And actually, I saw this tree, or I saw this effect done online at the time by someone else, and I altered it a little bit. And the effect, I think, came out quite nice. It's a process of using like 5 or 6 different layers of ribbon and layering them sort of so that, and each is a little bit longer than the previous one so that you can fan it out a little bit. If you look closely, you can see how that effect is quite effective, and really almost provides depth to the tree. It's almost a monochromatic tree, one color, kind of like a coppery, bronzy kind of a color. Really interesting tree, and I enjoyed doing it. It was intricate. The ribbon tree. I really wanted to put this piece in because of the garland that I created this year. I don't create garland every single year for the staircase. It has to go with a new theme. The theme in this particular year was just sort of a traditional Christmas theme with traditional colors of red, green, gold, and so forth. And that old idea of the colonial idea of using fruits to decorate for Christmas. The fruits that you see on this garland are artificial and sugared. And I found online pears, apples, oranges, and some other fruit. And I would literally sit there every night, and they were plastic, and coat them with Mod Podge, and then douse them in this crystalline solution, almost like glitter, but not glitter. It was like a sugary. I have to look it up, and then place them on a toothpick and let them dry overnight. Easily one of my favorite garlands of all time. Using just those fruits, pine cones, and some cute ornaments. And then, if you notice, there are some hanging ornaments that are also included in this particular garland. It hasn't been up in probably 4 years, 4 or 5 years, so it's due to make an appearance soon. And I'll call this, let's see, my traditional fruit garland. The next tree is another tree for our porch. And this tree only went up one time. And not because I didn't care for the way it came out, I actually did care for it. I liked it a lot. But again, this particular tree, 25 years old, a flock tree, extremely heavy, um, well over 100 pounds to lug up from the basement. So it takes some effort really to get this tree up. And this particular year, I decided to use the very traditional candles that you use in your windows. And these are old candles. I mean, they don't look old because what I ended up doing was getting this very heavy duty, shiny, shiny gold, almost cellophane, heavy cellophane, to wrap around the stem of the candle, to make it look, first of all, to have it stand out and shine, and to give it a new appearance. And then the remainder of the tree is all poinsettia flowers, which again are not my favorite, but I just matched ivory with purple, and the lights on the tree are white, and little sprays of gold that are coming out from it. It's a very simple tree, but it was a really interesting effect. And then the tall candles really stood out. And then in the dark, when the lights went out at night, and just that tree shine, it was absolutely beautiful. I'm going to call it my candle tree. Tree is one of my foyer trees. And the tree itself is only about 6 feet tall. It's called a pencil tree. But it's got a little bit more shape than a pencil tree. Pencil trees are usually super thin. This one has a little bit more width to the bottom of the tree. But again, it's just a 6-foot tree. And I thought in that little nook there in the foyer, I could change it up every year, and it's not a big tree to really change out each year. And for many years, I had all kinds of things, and I'm including 2 versions of the tree. This is, I believe it's my amaryllis tree, because mainly the main my red tree actually, but the main flower on there is amaryllis. Amaryllis, there's roses, amaryllis, and poinsettias, and it's all red, and with red lights too. It's a cute tree. I'll call it my amaryllis tree. Here is the second of my foyer trees. I'm calling this one my champagne tree because the colors, they're ivory and champagne colored. As difficult as that might be to see with this particular photo. But the ornaments are all very simple glass shiny ornaments. And again, some, I believe some magnolia blossoms and a few poinsettias. And there's some branches in there as well, glitter branches. And some clippy type ornaments, which I love, some clippy sprays. I'm calling it my champagne tree. This next tree is a very special, sentimental tree for me. I call it my pinecone tree. And what makes it special, for a number of reasons, is one of them is that I made this tree. And it's made completely out of pine cones. And it's decorated with just a very few ornaments and lights, and that's about it. What's unique about this particular tree is when I put it up for the very first year, I had one of my Christmas parties, and all of my friends and colleagues kept making the same statement that you could leave this tree up all year round, and it has that unique quality that it's not just a Christmas tree. It could go with the decor. And as you can see, the walls this is the reception room, are chocolate brown, and you would think that maybe it would just kind of blend into the wall, but it just glows. It's a special tree, I said before, because I got all the pine cones from my husband's former house down in Connecticut, and literally collected in his backyard I would say at least 4 to 5 trash bags full of pine cones, and went up to the third floor. And the house at this particular time, way back then, that was about 2010 or so, something like that, 2009. That the room that I constructed the tree in is now my office, but before was just sort of a ramshackle room, and then carried this pretty good sized tree all the way down. It's made with chicken wire and some heavy duty wire, and it's held its form all these years. I don't put it up every year. Again, it's one of those trees that I kind of circulate in and out, but it is a very special tree. My pine cone tree. This next tree I'm calling my Chihuly tree. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I wouldn't have thought of that name except that when I first put this tree up many years ago on Facebook, someone said it reminded them of a Chihuly sculpture because it almost looks like the entire tree is made of glass. And when you look at it, it sort of does. This is one of the, I think maybe the only tree for my large living room tree that I have used LED lights. I'm not a big fan of LED lights on the tree because it almost takes on too bright an effect, but I think it worked perfectly with this particular tree. The lights that I used were cluster lights, and I had never used those before either. The fastest lights to put on a tree, if you really want to something that's really super easy to put on, the cluster lights, because it literally has maybe 3 or 4 sets, and that's it. And it does the whole tree, and it looks like it has 2,000 lights on it. And it does all sorts of kind of crazy light effects and flashing lights, and you can change the color on it and go all red or all green or all blue. I decided to do the multicolored for a change, and I didn't do any of the effects. And with all the glass ornaments, it does kind of have that kind of glass sculptural effect. So I'm going to be calling this my Chihuly tree I did last year. So it's one of the newer trees, and looking at it now again, it's one of those trees that kind of reflects what is sort of popular right now, I think, in tree decoration, is filling a tree quite full with decorations to the point where you really don't even see the trees so much underneath. And but I think this one did work. I threw everything but the kitchen sink at it. Um, and it's really basically 2 colors. It's hard to see, and this is the daylight photo. And this is in our living room, and the walls are, and this is the actual paint color, called shocking orange. So it does kind of change the color of the tree a little bit, but this particular tree, I don't know what my theme was that last year. When I kind of think back, just sort of over the top maybe, and it has white beads that kind of just drape down, as you can see, and even the bows. And there's only like 3 or 4 really large bows. The material that I used was fake fur ribbons, and they were about 4 inch wide, and white fake fur. So it was quite an interesting tree. And if you look at the top, there's all kinds of curlicule things coming out of the top, and all kinds of floral, and even some bridal sprays. I go sometimes to the bridal aisle to pull something that is particularly delicate or something that I'm really looking for special. So I am going to call this. Oh, and this was the tree that last year was the first year since COVID, before COVID, that we had a staff Christmas party. So this was a kind of a special memory that is associated with this particular tree. So I'm going to call it the party tree. So I end with one of my earliest trees when I first moved into this house. And I'm going to call it, I don't know what I'm going to call it. Maybe I'll call it my first tree. It's far from my first tree ever. But I do remember creating this. This is a live tree. It's not an artificial tree. And the ribbon that comes down the front, you can see the profile on the two short pieces at the top. This whole thing I made myself. And by the time I was done, I was done. Um, I had to use something called latch hook rug squares and heavy duty plastic with little holes in them. And I literally went from Michael's to Michael's to Michael's to Michael's stores to try to, and I cleared them out of their latch hook rug squares in red. It was very hard to find. And there's one on one side and one on the other side. And then it required a lot of gluing and cutting, and it was hard to cut and then install the lights. So when you see those two lines of white lights down both sides and how straight that is, I don't know how I ever did it when I look back. It didn't last very long, actually, because of the plastic, and I used a glue gun to try to glue it together, and that was probably not the best. So it kind of fell apart after a couple of years, after all that work. And the topper was something I also created. I call it my chandelier topper because I literally took some heavy duty wire and created this very unusual, elaborate, kind of crazy shape, and then just covered it and bound it with incandescent lights, white lights. It was really quite dramatic when to see it in person, and this goes way, way back. So this is one of my very first trees, and this is what I'm going to end with today. I'm going to call it, maybe I'll call it my chandelier tree.